Hey everyone, welcome back to 25 Sweetpeas. It is finally time for another nail art basics video, and today we're talking about brushes, meaning nail art brushes and regular brushes, because when it comes to nail art, I do actually think that the brush can make or break the art in a way. Basically, if you have the right tools, you can do amazing things, and the more you increase the quality of your brushes, the better art you are going to get. But you can also really create some amazing art with non-nail art brushes, which is amazing. So for me personally, I actually started doing like nail art with regular craft brushes. So that is a perfect place to start if you don't have any nail art brushes and you still want to get into the nail art and you want to start using brushes beyond just dotting tools, because dotting tools are a great start, which we already talked about a few videos back, but brushes are also really great for lines and filling things in, and really there are just so many good uses for a good brush. So let's get into talking about different types, and then we'll go over some questions and answers at the end. Talk about regular craft brushes. So one of the brushes I actually use frequently is a normal craft store brush, and as soon as you see it, you're gonna know it's been loved and it's been used. But this is a look at it. I cannot tell you what the name is because it is like flaked off the wooden handle and I've put tape on top of it. But this is just a nice, really kind of like a round bristly brush that is really good for filling in a lot of space. So if you're wanting to paint, like if you're wanting to do like color blocking and you want to go straight down or something, you can really fill it in really well with this one. And I often only use acrylic paint with it because I don't really know that it would behave with nail polish, but we're going to talk about that towards the end after we get through the brushes. But that is a really good just basic craft store you can get at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. You can go into any of the craft sections and find ones. You just want to go for the really thin, small, little nubby ones, or long and skinny, and you can even get skinnier than this. This was just what I had from what I used to use, and now I basically just use regular nail art brushes. But for the most part, this is going to be good to start you off. So I would highly suggest going to a craft store and picking up a nice round, small, bristly brush. Next up for brushes, I would highly suggest going with the Winstonia Berry Wine Pack. I bought this actually whenever Winstonia actually had a store. You went to their site, but now they're available on Amazon. You can get this 3-set on Amazon. I don't know how much it is, but I will link it down below. I'm pretty sure it's under $10. So that is a really good deal. And with Prime Day coming up, if you're wanting to give it a go, you might try to do that with that. But they don't have like specific numbers or anything. They're just called the Berry Wine Collection. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. I'll try to insert some things. But these are really, really, really good nail art brushes. These are what these were the first nail art brushes that I actually used, and I still use them and highly suggest them. So I'm going to show you close-ups of these brushes, but they have very, very thin, fine, this is not working. I don't know, but yeah, very, very thin and fine bristles, and very not many of them, so you get really good lines. These are what I like to use for striping and like outlining details. Just perfect for that, honestly. So there's this one. This is, I think, this is like the medium-sized one in the set. Then we have the longest one. And this one I don't use as much, but it is really good if you get very small amount of paint on your brush to do some stripes, or at least get your good basis of. As you can see, this one is rather long and very, very thin. And then lastly, we have the one that looks the roughest, because this is the one that I used the most. And this one is very short and thin, and this is probably Then the smallest one that we have is this one. This is, we're just going to go against the sleeve over here. Very teeny tiny, very thin, very short. And I feel like this one is the easiest to use because you have the most control over where your brush is going. So if you're wanting to paint a little detail, you're not going to have it like bend because you're working so far away from it, if that makes sense. So this one is the smallest one in the set, and I personally love it. It's probably my most used one, because you do get the most control. Then my second most used is the medium size, because you do also have a lot of control over that one. So that is the Berry Wine set from Winsonia store on Amazon. Highly suggest it. Affordable, American based, and it's easy to get. Then my like high end, I would say, nail art brushes are the Mitty brushes, and I only have two, and I bought these during a sale that they had on a Black Friday, so it was like buy one get one, which is really good because these are actually imported from Australia, so you do have to wait a little bit longer to get these, but it's totally worth it in my opinion. So if you're looking for really good nail art brushes and you're like really serious about this and you want to do all the things, these are kind of magical in a way. I was like, when I was waiting for them to come, I'm like, I hope they're magical and they just make me be able to do all the things. And while yes, you obviously still have to know how to like do the art, these allow you to do more of what you're envisioning if you are envisioning very small, fine detail. So these are highly suggested. I use the pink one the most because it is shorter and I find shorter ones to be my friend. And this is the Candy 00. It is so like the perfect size, and it's the Candy 00, just so you know, again, because I already mentioned it, but you know. It's just so good. I find this one to work so nicely. And again, you have a lot of control over it because it is kind of on the shorter side. This one is still a little bit longer than my favorite. I think they have another one that is shorter that I want to pick up sometimes, like peach something, but I always wait for them to be on sale because of them coming from Australia and everything. And they're a little bit pricier. I want to say they're 11 or 16 or something. I don't remember. It's been a while. And then my longer one is the Minty 0, and this is a really, really good striping brush. Basically, if you load your brush properly or just very lightly and carefully and thought out, you will be able to do a stripe so easily with this one. As you can see, it is a little bit on the longer side, but that makes it so easy for just gliding across your nail and not letting it bend too much. So I love this one. It is really good, and that is the Minty 0. So those are my most used brushes, I would say, that I use for detailing. And I do have a few others that are just like there that I don't always use, but they're there for when I need them. So I always keep this little jar of things next to my desk. I have like nail files, my dotting tools, clippers, and such, but as you can see here, I have a fan brush, and this is really good if you wanted to do a fan brush manicure, or you wanted to do almost like a dry background where you just want to do like a big stroke down with some paint. This is really good for that, and this is from Twinkle Tea. You do not have to use a nail polish brand's fan brush. If you were using acrylic paint, I would highly suggest just using a regular fan brush from like the craft section. You do want to make sure it's not too big, and you kind of want to make sure that the bristles aren't gonna like pull out. So sometimes you want to like this and make sure nothing is coming out, because sometimes depending on the craft brush you will have bristles that will fall out. So you kind of do want to make sure that that's not going to happen, because you wouldn't want that on your manicure. But I do love the Twinkle Tea fan brush for that, and as you can see, it cleans up really well. I've only ever used it with acrylic paint, so that makes it easier to keep clean in my opinion, but you know, we'll talk about that in a minute. But then I do have these other ones that are more like flatter ones from Twinkle Tea, and they're really good. I just honestly don't use them as much, so I don't have as much to like recommend them to you. But I will say I do like this flat one, and none of these have names, but I'll try to link this set down below. This one is a good flat brush, and it's like a flat squared brush, so you can kind of put big thick stripes. You do definitely have to be careful with loading the brush so you don't go over the edge and like put too much pressure on the brush. But once you just play around with it, actually, you know, before you start going onto your nails, play around with the brush on paper. That will help you make sure you know how to like not put too much paint and such on there. It's also really good if you want to fill in like a bottom, if you're doing a gradation or you're doing like a silhouette manicure or something, you can take this and just fill in a good amount of space without, you know, tiring out one of your striping brushes. So I would say Twinkle Tea has a really good set that does have ones that you will use on the occasion, but not necessarily in your daily nail art routine. So now we are going to move on to questions. So I asked you guys on YouTube and on Instagram what type of questions that you had to go along with nail art brushes, and that's what we're going to cover real quick. So let's go on. Okay, so somebody asked about modifying the brush to fit their needs. So if you don't want to buy a nail art brush, you can be very, very careful with a craft brush from the craft store and actually trim it. I have not done that as much because I feel like that scares me, and I only have bigger, chunkier scissors to do that. So if you were going to do that, I would suggest very like small, almost like the scissors that you would use in sewing, because you have more control and they're very small and fine, so you'll be able to really trim the brush to a better size for your liking. And I don't think I have any examples. I have done some in the past. So you can, it's definitely something you can start with, but I do think you can get very small and tiny brushes in the regular craft section before you have to do that. Of course, if you want to make it shorter, definitely do that. I would try to go tapered in from the sides so you still have your brush being at a point though. That is my best tip for that. Okay. Somebody asked about how do you clean them. So this is where it kind of gets a little interesting. I clean them differently. So if I am using nail polish on a nail art brush, it's very rare that I do that because I don't like to do that because of how you have to clean them. So my midi brushes, for example, I never use nail polish on them. They are like nail polish approved brushes. You can use nail polish on these and they won't wreck them or anything. But I have found that whenever you are going to clean nail polish off of a brush, you want to use only straight acetone remover. You do not want to use like the strengthening nail polish remover, which is what I used to, well, that is what I use mainly. I use acetone only for cleanup. But you have to use straight acetone. If you use the one that has the strengtheners in it, I've always found that it makes my brush super stiff and therefore kind of unusable the next time I use it. Now, of course, there are ways you can get around that, but if you can avoid it at all costs, that is what I would suggest. So if you're gonna clean up nail polish off of any brush, you definitely want to use just a straight acetone. I use the Target brand because it's under $1 and you can grab that. Also, a question that I feel like would be asked with this is that a lot of people use this and they put additives in it to make it less harsh on their nails. So can you use an acetone with an additive to clean off nail polish on a brush? The answer is yes. So I have used the Moonshine Manny additives and I put them into my acetone and use that to clean up like around my cuticles, but I also do use that when cleaning my brushes, and it is fine. The only thing that I have found is that sometimes if you get it onto like the metal part or the wooden part of the brush, it is going to make it a little bit sticky, so you might want to wash the like handle off afterwards. And I've also found that whenever you are using, let's say like a wooden craft brush or something, and you put it down on the acetone, it is going to make the paint all gummy and sticky and gross. So either you want to make sure that you don't let the wood actually touch the acetone, or you want to get some masking tape or like electrical tape or something and wrap the brush so that doesn't happen again. But if you can only go up into the metal part with the acetone, you should be okay. It's not going to mess up the metal. It might just make it sticky if you have an additive in it. Now, for just any other brush, oh, that is the other thing. With acetone, I would suggest not doing that on a craft store brush. It is not meant for that type of harsh chemical on it. So with that being said, on a craft store brush, and really just any of my brushes in general, I only really like to use acrylic paint because acrylic paint is going to come clean with water, which is ideal for me. That's not going to hurt my brush. It's not going to make anything sticky. It's not going to make it stiff. It's just going to clean it off and let me go. Let me be. The one thing I will say that don't let your brush stay in the water for a super long time. If you put your brush in the water and it's sitting in there, and it reaches the bottom of the water, your brush can bend against the bottom of whatever your water is in and then get a bend in it, and it's kind of hard to correct. So definitely don't leave it in the water. Also, if you leave it in the water too long and the water goes up to the wooden part of your handle, it will start to make the handle crack and flake, which is not going to be as comfortable to use the next time that you want to use it. But I would suggest getting like a little glass jar and just putting some water in it and having it in your nail space. If you don't have a nail space and you don't need a permanent size of water, just use like a small plastic cup or something. Something that if it gets paint on it, you're not going to be heartbroken, but is also probably cleanable. This is my favorite thing. I used to use like a little plastic glass, but then it kept cracking and I was like, I don't like that in my room, on carpet, on my desk. So I've gone to this little glass jar and it works perfectly. I just fill it up with water about halfway. I can clean off my brushes and just let them dry normally, put their cap back on, and they're all good to go. As for anything other than that, I don't condition them or anything. I have thought about it, but they haven't really needed it. They've kept their shapes really well. And because I mainly use acrylic paint, I don't have to worry about the acetone. I'm sure over time, if you use the acetone a lot on a certain brush, it's just going to become a little hard to work with, and you will want to probably change out your brushes more so. But if you guys watch my other nail art basics video, I talk about like the pros and the cons of using acrylic paint, and honestly, acrylic paint in my opinion is the best way to do nail art. So if you're using that, you're not gonna have any issues, and your brushes are gonna last a lot longer. Let's just double check if there were any other questions. I think that is it. We actually only talked about nail art brushes, but for cleanup brushes, I actually do use a special brush. I use a Baroness brush, and I will link it if it is still available. It is this really pretty one. And this one has, I don't know, I don't clean it necessarily every time after I use it, which is really bad, but I need to. But this one has very thick bristles, so it really holds up, because whenever I clean around my cuticle, I do use straight acetone to remove that, just because it comes off a lot quicker. And that is also what I cleaned this brush in. I've had this brush for over a year and it still looks really good. It just needs cleaned right now. And it's not like super dirty, like the bristles are actually blue and purple, so there's just a little nail polish on the ends. This is definitely my favorite cleanup brush. I do have a few other shapes of theirs, but I like this angled one because it allows you to really like get in all the corners and curve around your nail without like having it spew all over your skin or anything. So that is my favorite cleanup brush. So other than that, I think we have covered everything. We talked about different brush sets, favorite ones, what I use, and then also how to clean them, and for like how to clean them for their longevity as well. So if you guys still have any questions about nail art brushes or just brushes in general, or something that I didn't cover that you would like me to go more in depth about in another video, let me know down in the comments below. I hope y'all enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. I'm really enjoying this nail art basics series. Hope you are too, and I think that is it. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I will talk to y'all very soon. Bye!